funny.
What's funny?
Mm-hmm.
You.
Whatever.
Always you. Because you just like, okay. Hey, y'all. We have to, we have to laugh coming in here. Um, Welcome back. Um, what we call this thing again? The I in Marriage podcast. There we go.
There's an I in marriage.
There is an I in Marriage podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. If you watched the first video, thank you for watching and supporting us. We are on our journey of dropping our book, and we'll be doing that very soon.
Mm-hmm.
We're excited because we're in very good motion. We believe God is doing some great things in our lives. And this week we just wanted to talk a little bit about ourselves a little bit more, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, this episode, that is, whatever we want to call this thing.
We'll talk about, because we've titled the book There's an I in Marriage, we feel like it's important. So the last one, I know we talked about
Us and how we got together.
how we met, how we dated and stuff like that, but like it's important to talk about your I, and we mentioned that in the book as well. When we combined our eyes, and I don't mean like our actual eyes, but like the letter I, like ourselves. We felt it was important to share a lot of details as we went on dates, as we got to spend more time together. Share details about how we grew up, what we expect from each other, what we expect out of a man, out of a woman, how we want to grow our relationship with ourselves, with God, and with each other.
Mm-hmm.
So we felt like at least if people are going to watch us, we feel like it's important for y'all to know at least our I, the way we got to know each other's.
Mm-hmm.
So,
tell us about yourself. We're gonna start ladies first,
So me, I'm from Chicago. Born and raised, grew up out there. I can't remember when it started. The moving.
Oh, okay. I was like,
Yeah.
what we
No,
getting
no,
into
no,
already?
no. We moved around a lot as a kid. When I was a kid, we just moved around a lot. But
Well, she has a family, right?
yeah.
Okay, there we go.
You want me to start with my family?
A little bit. You can.
Okay.
I mean, you gotta drop names.
I'm a middle child. I have 2 older brothers, and then I have a younger sister, and then I have siblings on my dad's side too.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom and dad were not married. Not many people in my family were married.
Mm-hmm.
We grew up with family just being always around. It wasn't big, but it wasn't small. So, a lot of aunts, uncles, a lot of people older than me. Very few people.
Shout out to y'all.
Very few people my age. One in particular, I hung around my cousin on my dad's side a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Grew up together, like they could just we like this still to this day. Shout out to her. She knows she is. And I was my grandma's shadow. Like I lived under that woman. Granny Rose. From the time I could remember, I just know that I was always glued to her hip. Wherever she went, I was. She went to the gas station, I was there. She went to her friend's house, I was there. She was in her room watching TV, I was in the room watching TV. She always lived with us, and I just always shared a room with her. Like my mom would give my brothers a room, she would have a room, and my little sister would sleep with my mom, or my sister was glued to my mom's hip. So my brothers had each other, my sister had my mom, and then I had my grandma. So again, like just wherever my granny went, she would get me whatever I wanted. Like she's like, don't say nothing. Just here's a brownie, here's cookies, here's this, here's that. She just give me junk food. And she would just listen to my rants as a 5-year-old. Just hear me talk. I'm just talking, and she just like, I talk too much.
No, I didn't say that.
She would tell, as I got older, I found out she was telling people I talked too much. Yeah, it was funny.
You don't talk too much. You got a lot of important things.
I had a lot to say. But she didn't mind. She was one of the first people that taught me how to peel greens, showed me what pig feet was, salmon croquette.
That sound like a little southern in you, just a little bit.
She's from Mississippi.
See, okay, yeah.
Yep. So she taught me. Oh, I love me some pig feet. I think I had I don't remember what kind of tongue it was. It was cow tongue or pig tongue. It was good
You
though.
telling too much now.
But it was. But people really do eat that. They really do eat that. Put some hot sauce on it.
Mm-hmm. See, look.
But
see?
I don't eat that no more. I don't. But when I was a kid, it was really good. Like, chitlins, all that.
Okay.
Granny showed me how to bake a cake, all that. And then as we got older and we started moving a lot, my brother left the house at a young age. So then it was me, my second oldest brother, and my little sister. And then my mom and my uncle, they would be together, and they would like they never moved with us, but wherever we went, we kind of had each other. So like when we first moved, we moved to, was it Wisconsin? I think it was Wisconsin. They stayed where they were, and then we moved back to Chicago. Then we moved to Indiana, and then that's when my uncle moved to Indiana. And unless he was already out there, I don't know where he was at the time. But then they lived with us for a while. Even my godmom and her kids, they lived with us for a while. We always were with them. We would stay with them, or they would stay with us. So it was always kids around. It was always older kids, younger kids, but not too many. It was probably like one, maybe three of us around the same age, but it was always older or younger. I was a tomboy. I like to do tomboy stuff. Yeah, skateboarding. I got the battle scars to prove it. Like, it was bad. It was bad. I used to do any and everything. Nothing crazy though. Just jumping off stuff, trying to do a backflip. Didn't know how to do a backflip.
Yeah,
still don't know how to do a backflip. Oh. Still don't try, but still couldn't.
But that's because you was around your brothers a lot.
Yeah, I was around my brothers and my cousins and stuff like that. And it was fun. So then we moved to Indiana. And like I said, we always lived with somebody, or somebody always lived with us. And then we ended up moving to Minnesota. Stayed out there for a while, and then we moved back.
Moved a lot, y'all.
Yeah, we moved a lot. Then we moved back to Indiana, but we lived in Gary, and then we moved to East Chicago, and then that's where I was like, okay. Growing up, I wasn't really able to make a lot of friends. It was always because we moved. It was always because I was shy. But when we finally settled in East Chicago, like, we didn't move for a long time. If we moved, it was from house to house, which again, it was a lot of houses we lived in. I never was able to sit down and just be like, okay, I'm gonna make friends. This is gonna be me. This is gonna be my room. This is gonna be my space. Never really had that until my mom got with my stepdad at the time, and then we finally found a house that she really liked. Then that's when I actually had my own room. My oldest brother, actually then lived below us. We was in an apartment. Had my own room. My sister had her own room. My brother had his own room, and it was separate from the house. It was pretty dope. But then she ended up finding another house down the street, and that's when we eventually got our own room again. And my brother got to live downstairs in the basement. He had his own little area. It was pretty cool. And then I got my own room. She bought us bed frames. Like, we literally had our own space. We finally felt settled. And that's when I was able to go to high school. That's when I was establishing my friends. Finally found a friend group that was like, that accepted me for me. Finally found out who I was. Figured out what I liked, what I didn't like. Still people pleasing. I feel like I've always been a people pleaser. Still was trying to people please because I just never, like I said, I never really fit in. Never really had too many friends.
Kind of things that you did.
Laughing at things I didn't think was funny. Not really bullying or anything, but like just laughing at stuff. I was like, oh, that wasn't really funny, but I'm gonna laugh to kind of fit in. Or just hanging out with girls that just really weren't, like, they were weird to me. And then I was just like, well, they're the cool kids. If they want to hang with me, then, you know. And then after a while, I kind of was like, and that's when I found the group of friends I was talking about. Still friends to this day, and they know who they are. That's when I got in my first, I would say, real relationship. Was not the greatest, was not the healthiest. Then I went off to school, to college out here in Indianapolis. And the reason I came to Indianapolis, I told you this, right? It just reminded me of Chicago. Like, some people might be like, ugh, what are you talking about? That don't make sense. But Indianapolis, to me,
All you Chicago
coming from
people hating on
Chicago,
Indiana.
coming from East Chicago, I was born and raised in Chicago. I know what the city was like, what it looked like, and everything like that. Then
And it's
moving to East Chicago, being in a smaller town, coming from a big town to a smaller town, then being like, okay, I need to pick a college. I don't want to go back to Chicago because I know what it's like, right? So I was like, let me look in IUPUI. Go look. I'm like, this reminds me of home. I don't want to be home, but it reminds me of home in subtle ways, like downtown, the way downtown looked previously, and the way it looks now, even. What else? What else did I point out? Oh, the campus was pretty big.
The major.
I like the major nursing. It was probably one of the better ones. It is still one of the top schools. So I was like, and then it was the placement of the hospitals. I knew I wanted nursing. I knew I didn't want to travel far. Like, I thought about a lot of stuff as a 18-year-old, which was pretty good. From like, now I'm looking back at it, that's pretty good because I thought about a lot. Thought about traveling. Thought about how I'm going to get to my clinicals. Thought about how I'm going to be, doing certain things. So
Shout out to nurses out there that understand what she's talking about.
Yeah. And it was cheaper. It was cheaper than Bloomington. It was cheaper.
IU Bloomington. Yeah. Everybody knows IU.
It was cheaper than Purdue.
Boilermaker.
I didn't get into Purdue, but I always liked IU. So I was like, okay, I'll just go there. So then got there. Ended up staying on campus 2 years. Moved off. My mom and my sister moved down here with me. And we all had a place. Still in that last relationship, and then finally it ended. Yes, made a lot of friends in college. Joined a sorority. Then that relationship ended, and then that's when I met you. So that's a lot. That's my eye, and I didn't go into too much detail.
You really didn't, but that is a lot of your eye, like how you moved from the south side of Chicago, and then became the person that you are today. Yeah. Like, in the suburbs
a lot of that shaped
of
my mindset, Yeah. Family, a lot of moving, a lot of friends, like realizing what I want and don't want out of life. A lot of that shaped my mind.
And also being used to moving. Like, I remember us having conversations early on in dating, and even, I would say even the past year, like you're learning to slow down, but you're so used to being on the move.
Yes. And I get that. I've learned that I get that a lot from my mom. Like, because she's the same way. She's always moving. She's always needing something to do.
For sure.
She's definitely a hustler.
Shout out to her cookie business.
She is a hustler. Like, she don't care how I got to get it done. She's going to get it done. But now that I'm older, just having to learn that on my own, that slowing down actually brings more wisdom. It brings you more fruit. It brings you more peace. It brings you more rest. I feel like it's helped my mom in a way too, because it's helped her slow down too. Because I'm like, hey mom, like, you don't have to do this anymore. Like, I'm good. Your kids are good. We grown. You did the best you could. Like, you're okay. You don't have to make this amount of money every month. Like, you only have to take care of yourself. Like, just, it's okay. So I feel like she has learned to slow down. But again, all of that stuff has shaped who I am, and a lot of stuff I had to unlearn.
What are some things that you've unlearned?
I feel like there's been times where it's always like, I'm your family. You gotta choose my side. You gotta choose my side. Right or wrong, ride or die. Now that I'm older, I'm on the side of right. Like, in the definition of love, like, if you're on my side and you chose my side, then that means you love me. Not necessarily. I love you because I love you, not just because you're my family. I love you because God has called us all to love each other, so I'm gonna love you. But if you're wrong, I'm gonna correct you. If you're wrong, I'm not gonna do it in public where I'm gonna shame you and embarrass you in front of somebody, especially if you're my family and we doing it in front of a stranger. That's just ridiculous. I'm gonna pull you aside and say, hey, no, you were wrong in this situation. No, you were XYZ. Like, I don't, and it's not that I love you any less. I'm doing it because I love you. I'm doing it because I want to see you grow. So I feel like growing up, I guess Chicagoans, a lot of Chicagoans think that way. Like, it's just that mentality. It was the neighborhood mentality. Like, we on your side. Like, this is it. This is it. Now, there was some people who corrected some people in private. I've seen it. But I feel like a lot of that was heavy in my family. We family, regardless. Right is right and wrong is what I've learned. And I feel like a lot of people, just in general, it's hard to accept that, especially when that's all you've known growing up. Like, my loyalty to you is everything. If your loyalty in somebody is everything you got, or all that they have, that's unhealthy. If that's all y'all can stand on, right or wrong, there's no room for growth. Like, and that's what I had to learn for myself. I feel like my family's changed in that aspect too, but it took me a minute to realize, like, this don't feel right, So, you was about to say something?
No, I'm letting you cook. I mean, because I think people, especially if they're just like, okay, I've got family like that. I've got friends like that, because it's not always just family. It can be friends that's like that. They're probably grappling with the idea of, like, okay, if I felt this way, but how do I start talking about it? How do I continue to grow in myself, especially not, making other people upset, or
when you're changing from the person you used to be and the people around you are getting upset, that's a them problem. Now, and you're changing for the better as well, like, that's especially a them problem. And I don't mean that in like a rude way or a mean way, but I mean it in the sense of, like, because I'm changing, you're upset. How does that sound?
You should be happy, actually.
How does that sound? Like, and I'm not asking a question. I'm not asking that question to be judgmental at all either. And I know you know that. I guess I'm saying it for the record. Like, I say that because let's literally ask the question. Let's put it this way. Somebody chooses to stop going to loud parties, big hip hop, rap, trap parties, right? And their friend is used to them going, or their brother or sister, family member, whoever chooses, like, they still want to keep going. This is what we used to do. This is what we do. This is what we do. But you're like, no. When I go to those things, it provokes this behavior, and I don't want to do that anymore. It's not like me. And they get upset. Why are you mad? If you say you love me, you're going to respect my decision, and you're going to be like, all right, I'll respect you enough to not invite you anymore, or I'll respect you. And if I love you that much and I want to keep the relationship, then okay, and I still like doing this stuff, okay, I'll keep doing it. But if I still want to hang with you and be with you, I'll choose certain places to go where it's not loud and trappy and stuff like that.
We can find a different common ground.
We can find a different common ground, but we have to communicate it. But you can't, when people get upset at the fact that you are changing, and it's almost inevitable, because
you're gonna change throughout life.
And we talk about that in the book. You're gonna change. It's just some people choose not to accept it, and therefore creating problems, and they're being selfish in that problem. And I had to learn also to not internalize people's, like, dysregulation. Like, because you're dysregulated, you're mad that I'm changing. I'm supposed to coddle you? No, we all grown. I'm gonna set that boundary, and I'm gonna stand 10 toes on it, and I can do it in a loving way. I think when people stand 10 toes behind something, it sounds very negative, very authoritative and military like. No, I'm standing 10 toes on the fact that I don't want to do X, Y, Z no more.
It makes me
Therefore,
uncomfortable.
they
Or
make, yeah.
like
And if you
there's
say you love
internal things
me,
that
you know,
it's
so
it's not even about you. It's there's some things it doesn't fit well with my life.
with where I'm at right now, it's
Mm-hmm.
not good for me to do, because if I do it, I know the type of person I become or the behavior it brings out.
Or just
So,
it not just the behavior it could bring out. It's just when I go there, I don't feel like I fit in anymore. Just overall, it's just
that too, yeah.
you just don't feel comfortable. It might not be a safe space.
And sometimes it just takes a while for that person or those people to get it, to be like, okay, I respect it. Some people gonna respect it off rip, but there's some people who will kind of challenge you, step on your toes, push you beyond your boundaries, and then that's when you have to set a new boundary. Like, hey, look, I'm no longer accepting that. I'm no longer going to be around this. I'm no longer doing this. And if you continue to provoke me, I will just have to draw more boundaries with you, or I will have to stop talking to you in totality. Like, and I think you can do all of that in a loving way. I think the definition of love in a lot of families actually has been so many different definitions that sometimes it gets misconstrued, and therefore causing people to have to unlearn certain things. Like, oh, I thought this was love. Like I said, like for my family, it was I'm gonna stand behind you, right or wrong. Like, I'm not gonna do nothing. You know, I ain't gonna do this, I ain't gonna do that. But that's not love if I'm always on your side when you're wrong. Where do you grow? I'm hindering your growth. I'm holding you back at some point if I never tell you you're wrong. I am causing confusion in your mind if I'm constantly telling you, yeah, you're right. Hey, Kayla, the sky is green.
Yeah, you right, bro. You definitely
Bet.
right.
So now you finna walk around telling people the sky is green. Yeah, you right, bro.
Yeah.
Hey, I read in a book.
Which book? It was one of them.
It's you know what, I watched a YouTube video, and I'm not trying to make fun of people, but like these are the like you see where the growth stops when you don't correct somebody.
Yeah. Wait, hold on. We're from we was watching Waterboy last night. He said my mama said my mama said that alligators or something, and everybody was like,
oh yeah, yeah. He said alligators are so angry because they got all that teeth and no toothbrush.
That's what it was.
And
yeah. My mama said
he was like, well, he like the professor laughed it off, like, okay, we'll fix that later, type. And then the student raised his hand and told him it was from the medulla oblongata, da 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 da. And but you can see where he got. Ooh,
look at that.
I see
That's
where
crazy.
where growth gets uncomfortable, because he got uncomfortable when he was wrong. You get uncomfortable when you're wrong, and people don't like to be uncomfortable. People don't like to be like unsettled, challenged. So when that happens,
mind break.
people, yeah, now you gotta when your brain has known something for so long and it starts to connect patterns, and you break something, you throw off that chain. You have to look at like a bike chain. You got to look at the whole chain. Now you got to reroute everything because that one thing was broken.
Yeah.
And I think that's where people are like, I'd rather be told that I'm right, because I'd
That's
rather
a lot
say
of fixing
nothing
that
at
I
all.
got to figure out, or I don't have more answers to the questions that I would have if I were wrong. Like sometimes you're gonna have to. Like some people don't like being wrong because they're afraid that they're always gonna have to find new answers, and they don't have.
Because
the
you
answers.
broke a chain. You broke a long. Our brain connects so many things. Like, I even had to tell my mom, like, hey mom, we had a discussion about some things, and I was like, Mom, I can't take your word for everything anymore. And it's not that I don't love you it's not that I love you any less. It's not that I don't trust your word. It's just I have to fact check you. I'm a 25-year-old woman, and I've learned all I can from you. I'm here out in this world on my own, and I'm learning new things. I cannot
Go off of my mama said.
Okay. My mama said, if I walk in the bank trying to get a business bank account and I ain't got no LLC, or I ain't got none of this stuff, like none of the paperwork, but my mama said.
My mama said.
My mama said.
How many
You know
of y'all?
how silly you look?
Hold on, I'm not trying to make fun of anybody, but if you had one of those my mama said moments, and people were really trying to guide you to somewhere else, like can you Can you accept that one? Accept that little L right there, and then be like, you know what?
And it's not your mama. It wasn't that she was
Wrong or completely wrong, or she wasn't trying to give you guidance. There's a lot of people that actually are.
Because she could have left you blank. She could have left you without stop talking to me.
Shoot, I don't know about that one, son. I don't know one.
Yeah, like she gave you something, so you can't be mad at that. But I think when it's time to break that chain, now you have to disconnect everything that's been connected to that thought.
Ooh, question before I keep putting it off. What are things in your family that you've seen when it comes to dating? Because we've been talking about life and stuff.
Okay.
But let's talk about dating. What things you saw in your family, no names, but just what you saw in your family that allowed you to do your dating the way you did before me, and then what did you unlearn?
As far as dating in my family, I didn't really see much of it.
Was it okay?
What I saw was a lot of my aunts and uncles be with the same person, either married or not married, for a very long time. And if they brought somebody around, it was like one or two people. Same with my brothers. They would bring around girls and never really got to see what they would talk about, never got to see how they acted with each other all the time, 24/7. So I didn't really know how to date. Dating wasn't a big conversation in my house. My mom would tell me, like, you should wait till marriage, and then I'm like, never really got an understanding as to why for real, but I just
wait for what for marriage?
Wait for sex.
There we go. You know, just for people to make sure they got that one.
What she would say is, as I got older, if you do start to have, she said this to me, if you do start to have sex, come talk to me. Or you have urges, come talk to me. Just tell me. Like, she would always reiterate to me, Kayla, please come talk to me if you have questions, or if you do anything, just tell me. Please tell me. So when I did do something, I told her, and she wasn't angry. She wasn't, like, upset. And, I mean, thankfully I was in a relationship, so I wasn't just doing it with any and everybody. It was literally just that person, but it was still, like, she was like, well, I thought you were going to wait. And I was like, well, I thought so too. And when I look back at it, I kept saying, I wish I did wait. But as far as dating, it really wasn't talked about, like, dating. Like, dating, the word dating just didn't really float around our household.
Kind of breathed and did it.
If I saw a guy I liked or a guy liked me, it was like, okay, I'll get to know you. Like, talking was a big... Talking was... Or that's my friend.
Or caking, in high school?
Yeah, that's my friend, yeah. Stuff like that.
Was there things in high school too, or
what do you mean?
That you picked up that taught you about dating?
So like talking, I would see people talking all the time, and then they would act like they're very much so in a relationship, and then 2 weeks later they're talking to somebody else. So 2 weeks in high school though always felt like a month.
That's real, because you went to 27 classes in a week. And you
do it every day.
Yeah.
So it's like you do get tired of seeing that person. Dang, it was almost practice for a lot of people in high school, but
or you bump into somebody that was new and interesting, and you kind of mosey your way out of that relationship,
and you start trying to talk to that person. So it's always interesting that way too. But I didn't really take on too much stuff, like,
which is good.
Like dating advice and stuff like that. Like, I would always talk to my friend about it, because she would tell me, she would just tell me, like, Kayla, like, if you feel like he's then maybe stop talking to him, or maybe this. And I'm like, you right. So stuff like that, we give each other dating advice, but like, it wasn't nothing ever serious. Well, if you feel something, then you need to act on it. So.
Ooh, bigger question. What did you feel about marriage when you were growing up? Even like the earliest ages to then high school?
I always knew I was going to be married. That's all I know.
That's heavy.
I just always felt like I always knew I wanted a house, I wanted to be married. And you can ask my family too. They would say, like, I talked about that stuff at a very young age. Like, I'm going to have a house, I'm going to be married, I'm going to have kids, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And they would be like, okay. And I would say that at a very young age, and then I would keep saying it as I got older. So I always knew I wanted these things, and I was going to have them. I just didn't know how to get them, because I didn't see it firsthand. Like, my grandma was married, but I didn't know for real she was married until like I got older and was able to go see her by myself, I was driving her around and we actually had conversations. And then I saw pictures. I'm like, oh, you married him. Like, oh, I didn't know y'all were married. She didn't really wear like a lot of rings. Like, if she did have a ring on, I just never paid it no attention. But then when she passed away, then I talked to her husband and it was like, oh, okay, y'all was for real married. Like, y'all went to the courthouse. They had a little picture. She had a little white turban on. She was so cute. I miss her. But other than that, like, that was the only
question, because you just mentioned for real marriage. Growing up, or even now, or whatever, what classifies someone as for real married to you? What was the signs, or what was the things that made you feel like they were for real?
I don't know. I never thought about it. It wasn't too many people. Like, and then now that I'm older too, and I look back, there was some people who were married, but they didn't act married. They were always arguing, or they were never together. So stuff like that, or like it was family friends who lived in buildings or were down the street or whatever. You just could never tell. Ooh, wait, no. I think I could tell. Now, again, looking back at it now, the people who were married, like neighbors and stuff, you could tell because they weren't always outside, or they weren't always around. The parents that were married for real, and the kids had or the kids weren't outside every day. Because they were gone, or they were like, or maybe, and I'm assuming, like, they probably were on family trips, or they probably were in the house, like, they had structure. Not saying that we didn't have structure. We had some form of structure. I think every house has some form of structure. But now that I'm looking back at it, a lot of kids that you would see every now and again, like my brother's friends or my friends, I'm like, come outside. And they're like, well, no, my mom said I can't. Not today. Or I can't leave the porch today. Dad said I can't. So, stuff like that. It's like, oh, looking back, like they must have had a married household. Because they had, or they weren't out, or they weren't outside, or they couldn't come outside, or they couldn't do certain things. Yeah, maybe that's what it was. But I, as a kid, I couldn't tell who was married and who wasn't. I just knew certain people were together, certain people wasn't.
Okay.
The only people I just truly remember being married is my grandma and my uncle. My uncle was also married too. He is married, so he was married once and then he married again, and I didn't really pick up on anything in their marriage either, because I didn't pay attention. I wasn't paying attention.
And that's okay.
I just knew they were a couple.
Like you just, I mean, given everything that you've talked about when it comes to like growing up and moving around and all these things, it probably is a blur, because I'm 31 and life from my past is a blur already. But did you have any imaginations about marriage, or did you look up to different figures and be like, I would like a marriage or a relationship like that?
No, I didn't really look up to anybody.
I know some people do. We, in our society, we like to look at either celebrities or even close by figures like your teachers or something.
It wasn't. I looked at couples, not nobody who was actually married. But I would have like thoughts like, oh, I wonder what it's gonna be like when I'm married. I wonder what it's gonna look like in my house when I have it built.
And what you think you would like?
I just knew I was gonna be with a man.
she makes it seem so simple, like, no details.
I didn't really have like a built man. I just knew I wanted a man. I knew he was gonna be somewhat taller than me. I just knew he was gonna be a man, and I knew I was gonna get a house built.
And she got one.
I did.
Doggone it.
I did. So I just really, I don't recall myself drawing out this man or this house.
That's kind of interesting though, because in our society we like to, whether that's clipping of posters, pictures, vision boards, and
I do now.
Writing out a certain identity. He has to be 6 foot or taller, and got to make a certain amount of money.
I can tell you what kind of house I want now. I could tell you the model right now, like the next house. But
we talking about like because Okay, I'm thinking
I'm
about.
saying now that I'm older, I can put more detail to it.
Gotcha.
That's what I'm saying.
Gotcha.
But when I was younger, I wasn't putting no detail to it because I didn't know what it looked like. I just genuinely didn't know what it looked like. I couldn't really pinpoint what I wanted. I just knew it was gonna happen. Didn't know when, didn't know how, didn't know who. I just knew it was gonna happen. And that was before I actually knew God. And I can talk about that too. I guess in my family, God was a topic. We would talk about God, but we didn't really go to church every Sunday. We didn't read our Bibles. I mean, if it was a Bible in the house, it was at least one, if any. I knew about praying. I knew how to pray. We didn't really bless our food every night. We would every now and again.
No judgment.
Yeah, yeah.
But
And
it's like,
it's yeah, like we compared to you, like we, it wasn't like that. Like
So yeah, she's referring to the fact that we do pray over pretty much every meal.
yeah, y'all talk heavily about God.
We
Y'all
pray
know,
in the morning. We pray going to bed at night.
Yeah. And growing up, we didn't do much of that. I would say my prayers sometimes at night, not every night though. When we did start going to church, when we were out here, it was a church in Munster, Indiana, and it was nice, but I still didn't understand a lot of the things the pastor was talking about. So I was falling asleep in church, stuff like that.
Been there.
But as I got older, I started to kind of understand some things, and then it was still like I don't know. But then I ended up.
Was that like high school, college?
High school.
Okay. Paint a picture.
So I knew like sex before marriage. Like I was like, okay, but still didn't think none of it. I knew like
Not having sex before marriage, but yeah.
What?
Well, just for clarity, you're talking about sex before marriage. I said not having.
Not having sex before marriage. I started to have a realization of what else was it? Saying certain things about people, like bullying, things like that. I would be like, that's not right. You know, like I had a conscience, put it that way. I just didn't know any Bible scriptures. I didn't know how to put it to it. I didn't know how to walk that way. And then when I got to college, me and my friend decided to go to a Bible study, and that's when I started going every Wednesday. Like we both started going every Wednesday. It was fun. We learned a lot about God. We learned about the Word. We learned about each other. It was heavy. So then bought my first Bible from Dollar Tree. I showed it to my our mentor at the time, the one leading the Bible study, and she was so happy for us. She was excited. She saw we were excited.
She's dope.
She's very dope. Shout out to her. And then I started going to that church. I didn't go every Sunday, but I went to Bible study faithfully every Wednesday for a while. And then as I graduated and drifted towards just trying to maintain work in my studies, I stopped going to that. The kids got younger. Anyway, I was like 23. They aren't kids, yeah, but like where I was in my life, I was too arrogant to see them as young adults, because I'm like, oh, they're 18, 17, and 18, and I'm 23. I need to be at work in the morning. I don't want to be driving this far. Like, peace out, y'all. And then when I met you is when I was like, with okay, yeah, with love. And again, like, I wish I knew. I always say I wish I knew what I know now. I wish I knew then what I know now with a lot of stuff, and I would have handled it very differently. But I have to accept that it's who I am, and it's gotten me where I need to be, because I had to unlearn it. I had to figure it out. It was a season,
you know. It's you were growing up, and God said, okay, we're gonna put you in your big girl stuff. Yeah.
And it's back to that rewiring stuff, like or breaking that chain.
So, you feel like you talked a lot about your eye. Is there any? Oh, actually, I did have another question. In your dating, before me, I don't know if I really did ask this question already, but like, what were things that you've unlearned with that relationship, if you don't mind talking about it, and then you know where you are now.
Um, I had to unlearn selfishness.
Mm.
And I talk about this in the book too. Basically, when they say what's mine is yours, and what's yours is mine, it's real. Um, in previous relationships, I would always be like, "No, this is mine. I'm gonna buy my food. You're gonna buy your food." Um, Even though we've been together for so long, I'm still talking like, we go out to eat, you gonna pay this half, I'm gonna pay this half. Or we go get, or we take trips, you gonna pay this, I'm gonna pay this. Like, versus now, it's times where we both are like, oh, well, shoot, if you pay for this, then shoot, I'll buy that. Like, you know, like, or it's just sporadic. Like, we just, like, when we were in Vegas, like, it was times that you bought stuff, it was times that I bought stuff. It was like,
But it wasn't like a tit for tat or like.
Back then, it was tit for tat. It was very selfish. So I had to unlearn that. I had to unlearn my word choices, especially with you. Not saying that you're sensitive, but like, words have power, and I know not to say certain things to you because you take them differently, and I have to. It's not that I'm walking on eggshells. I'm learning how to love you. I'm learning how to talk to you and speak life into you, not death. And I used to speak death in my last relationship. Like, you ain't nothing, you lame, you getting walked on, like all types of stuff. Like, it was bad. Like, you need to stand up for your, like, almost like tough love. And I had to unlearn that, because you don't deserve tough love. You just deserve pure love. And I don't think nobody deserves tough love. Like,
No.
there shouldn't be a thing. It's not a thing. God doesn't do tough love. Now, people always say, like, you're gonna go through tough times, but I don't know. I just feel very indifferent about it when it comes to God. Like, God doesn't give you tough love.
That's a whole different conversation.
That is a whole different conversation. I had to unlearn that. Like, there's no such thing to me. There's no such thing as tough love, and tough love does not make you tougher, does not make you stronger. I feel like we go through situations in our life because of our own choices, and then we learn from those choices. Just like this week for me, like, I had to learn to not grieve for people who aren't grieving for themselves. So I had to unlearn a pattern that just, I'm trying to show these people tough love, or I'm trying to be there for them. It's like, no, I can't do that. I can't do that, because it's no such thing. I just need to state what I need to say, leave it at that. If they're willing to take it in, they'll take it in. I can't beat into you anything.
And that's probably something you learned growing up.
Yes. Tough love. Tough love. It's tough love. It's tough love. No, there's no such thing. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. God, my God, who knows the numbers of hairs on my head and yours, who knew me in my mother's womb, who knows what I will do and won't do, who knows what I'll do tomorrow and 3 years from now. He does not show tough love. I feel like he shows the purest, the most joyous love possible, and it's the way you view it. It's the way you view it. I think some people think that when you get rejected, it's the most heartbreaking thing. And yes, it is. I'm not discrediting that. Again, two things, like Tim Ross says, two things can be true at once. Shout out to him, because that's real.
Yeah.
It can be hard. It can be tough. But that doesn't mean God is showing you tough love. He's actually showing you protection.
Mercy.
Rejections don't always mean like a bad thing. It's a good thing.
Okay.
It hurts.
Not this one. Not this thing.
Not this thing. It hurt.
Yeah.
Of course it hurts. I'm never going to discredit that. A lot of stuff in life is tough. A lot of things in life are hard, disappointing, heartbreaking. But it's not because God is showing you tough love. It comes from a different place. It comes from protection. It comes from, just like a dad is going to protect his child from running in the street.
Facts.
You think that's tough love? That's not tough love. That's just protection.
And there's going to be correction about it. It doesn't have to necessarily
It ain't got to be yelling.
beaten.
Yeah, it ain't got to be beaten. It ain't got to be go get the switch. It ain't, There's, to
if the
me,
if the
tough love
child
is,
understands and is talked to right,
they'll get
and
it.
every kid is different,
They'll get
but
it. They'll
there's just
get
a
it.
way about doing correction and loving on someone. There's just a way
There's
about
no
doing
such thing as tough love.
it.
I do not want to show our future kids tough love. It's just in my mind, it just don't make sense to me. Cause tough love ain't tough. Love is gentle.
But so think about how, and we like to have moments where we reflect and just like, wow, like I've grown from this.
Mm-hmm.
You've grown from a family, a lifestyle, high school, college, thinking love was tough.
Mm-hmm. Thinking that I had to talk tough into you, and because I love you, I'm gonna talk to you like this.
Mm-hmm.
No.
And that's probably a lot for. That's a whole nother topic, but talking about femininity, talking about.
I had to learn to be feminine again.
Mm-hmm.
I had to unlearn that. Because again, I was a tomboy. Still got it in me. Still willing to get dirty. Still willing to get my hands dirty and do a lot of stuff. You've seen it, like, but like I'm not scared of heights. I'm not scared to, like I think we were in Vegas and I was trying to do stuff and then you was like, babe, you got a dress on. I'm like, you right. Like I can't climb on that, or I can't, I can't do that. I shouldn't be doing that. You like, baby, you got a dress on. I'm like, you right. Let me cross my legs. Let me sit down. Like, and that too, I had to learn that I'm not always right. It's so much stuff I talk about in the book that I had to learn. I had to learn to be quiet. I say shut up oftentimes. When I tell people that, their eyes get wide. What did you learn in marriage? They think I'm gonna say something real sweet. I'd be like, I had to learn to shut up. Yeah. People eyes get real big, and they be like,
No,
some married women be like, like they get happy when I've talked to married women, and when they ask me that question, and I say that, and they be like, yup.
We ain't making this up yet. That's really what it is. We're not making this.
Some married women actually give me one of those like, yup. But then there's a lot of other people, single, dating, or whatever. They be like, she said, shut up. Like, yeah, I had to learn to shut up. I had to tell myself, shut up.
And it's not because hands is being swung. It's nothing like that.
And he never told me shut up. He never told me be quiet. Never told me shut my mouth. Nothing. I had to learn it for myself because I saw how certain things, or the way I said certain things, or the way I did certain things, it affected him or it triggered an emotion with him. Now, granted, that's some things that you have to deal with within you, but I also still have to learn to love him through that. For me to sit here and show him tough love again, or sit here and talk to him and do things a certain way, even though he's reiterated to me, I don't like that. Is that love? Exactly. I had to unlearn that. Because I do love you, so I'm willing to change. Full circle.
And there's definitely a side of men that need to understand that because you love a woman, you have to change too. So it's not just a woman. We talk about submission. We talk about femininity. We can talk about all types of gender roles and relationship roles and this and that.
And we can relate it to the Bible, and it will all be true. Yes, women should do certain things and men should do certain things. And it's not always about household duties, but it's literally about how to represent God and walk the way Christ needs us to walk. But you also need to be the person that you want.
That's fact. You
can't sit here and say, oh, women need to be X, Y, Z, and they need to do this and this and that. But then you aren't a man to respect. You aren't a man that walks in faith. You aren't a man that has a relationship with God. You aren't a man that has a vision. You aren't a man that has a job. You aren't a man that pays his taxes. You aren't a man that, you aren't the man that God is telling you to be, so I can do what I need to do.
And so, of course, we talk about dating with biblical aspects. But overall, and it's not to take away from what the Bible is telling us to do because it is right. But there's just a lot of things that we want to do as a society, as a culture, that really separates us rather than keeping us closer together. And
we like to point fingers and say, you should be doing this. Okay. What did it say in Luke?
What is it saying, Luke?
Before you try to help take the speck out of your friend's eye.
That one.
Deal with the one in your eye.
Mm-hmm.
We sit here and we like to point fingers about what you should be doing. I need to look at myself and say, what should I be doing? Therefore, you would also see it and you can follow suit.
Yep. And so, kind of bringing it back to the I in marriage, y'all, like, just because society is saying that things are wrong doesn't mean you have to take on that same thought process. And so we're opening this idea of this is how a marriage or relationship could work. Everybody's going to be different, of course. You're going to have your own eye. You're going to have your own things to get to understand each other. You have to understand the other person. You have to get over some things that you grew up with. There's going to be some things that you have to just learn as you're walking through life in general, because life is a day-to-day thing. I know we want to get famous or rich, or we want to be able to do so much, but overall you got to stack these days and be like, you know what, I'm going to be better so that the person that I'm going to be with can have the better, not oh, they just going to have to set me for who I am.
And they better do what it says, and then you can't, and don't ever use the Bible to justify it either.
No, not at all.
When you're not walking in the same pattern.
Not
you
at
can't
all.
just like it really goes back to, oh, women disrespect men so much and this and that, and it's like, okay, you may present me with a lot of facts that may be true about how women are less submissive nowadays, or black women is this and this and that. But also, who are you?
Who are you? Are you a respectable person? Do you tell the truth?
And it's not that you deserve disrespect either.
No, you don't.
But don't you dare sit here and tell me what I need to be doing, and I'm sitting here watching you do the complete opposite. You don't submit yourself to anything, so why should I submit to you?
You don't have a plan.
You don't have a plan.
Or a vision.
Or a
you
vision.
don't walk out a plan or a vision. You may have, like, oh, I do want to get married at some point. Oh,
but
I do want a house.
You aren't showing me the things. You aren't respecting me. You aren't showing me what you aren't showing me what you want to see. And I know, and I get that it's not that you deserve disrespect because you weren't doing what you want me to do.
But sometimes it comes with the fact that you haven't.
A woman is gonna reflect a man. So if a man is doing this, the woman is gonna do this. If the man is doing this, then the woman is going to do this. So because, babe, you come home with a positive attitude, or you came into my life a certain way, I'm going to reiterate that. I'm going to follow you. I'm going to mirror you.
You know why the bills is paid? Because I make sure them bills is paid. And it's not necessarily it's all my money. It's just that you make sure the bills is paid. You make sure them bills is paid. And you make sure, like, hey, babe, we need to pay this monthly thing, or we need to do this. And I'm like, okay. Like, I follow suit. So it's your reflection of who you are submitted to. So men, who are you submitted to? Women, who are you submitted to? You're going to reflect that. If you submit it to Instagram, you're going to reflect a social media influencer and be like Instagram. Like, you just going reality TV.
It's going to be like reality TV.
Or
if you
hip hop music videos.
Yeah, if you believe what these songs are saying, then you're just going to walk and talk and act like that. You're going to reflect that. If your wife or girlfriend or whoever is not listening to you, then therefore are you listening to her? Because it's literally just a reflection. And that part. And what goes back to is, let's say that man is a good man. He is doing all these things. Women, are you ready to accept that? I talk about that in the book too.
And are you even encouraging? One is accepting. Two is encouraging. Because she's an inspiration to me, because I know that I got to keep going. I cannot go off the rails and do the things that my flesh would want to do, because I love her so much, and I don't want, like, I know that she's over there blessed. No, like, seriously though, like, when you love someone, of course you change, but also you need momentum. And if you're tearing each other down, you're not going to get anywhere. You're not going to get the house. You're not going to pay off bills. You're not going to have a healthy household with kids that's able to breathe in love. And overall, And it's not saying that, you have these things and they are bad. It's just that we know that God provides healthy things.
And there's so much
that
more you can
there's
have.
plenty of scriptures that says that God gives things and they're good and they come with no sorrow. And that's our goal in our household. We want to have no sorrow. Not saying like we won't go through hard times.
Yeah.
But because there is a way that we do life, especially following God, we know that we don't have to wake up angry. We don't have to go to bed angry.
Joy, yeah.
We don't, we whether we have money or not, we're not going to sit here and pout because we know
we're gonna
that
talk about it. We're gonna talk about it. Like, if it's something bothering us, we're gonna talk about it.
Exactly.
And we don't care what time of day it is, what time of night it is. Like, if we gotta stay up, if I gotta call in to work because we talking, I'm gonna talk. This is more precious to me than my job.
Oh, because we live together.
I don't live at my job.
Like
if I lose this, then
maybe at some point we can figure out a way to show y'all. Not trying to show y'all our house, but understanding like if you've been in our house, especially our friends. Like if you've been in our house, you understand like there's a level of peace and quiet, and it's not because
what they call it, je ne sais quoi.
Je ne sais quoi. It's the ambiance. No, seriously, like we have a way of doing things because we know that if we're good, we can focus on the other things outside of the house.
Pouring from an overflow.
Yeah, pouring from an overflow. But for people, and it's still not out of judgment, but for people that are out there in relationships or marriage that you feel like you're just so beat up when you get to work. And you feel beat up, or you're scared to go home, or you would rather be somewhere else.
I've been
there. See, and this is other relationship we're talking about. You
not
don't.
Here.
She's happy here.
Yeah, I'm very happy. I be rushing home.
But yeah, you have we're being real. We're talking about reality, not, and we're not talking about like reality TV where there is the drama. Of course, there is the drama, but like let's take it from okay, there's drama. How can we make it healthy?
And that's what I was saying too. Like a lot of times, I see a lot of people, and again, it's no judgment. We're not perfect. We check
patterns.
ourselves. We see patterns. But the pattern that I've been noticing is a lot of people, and we've been guilty of this too. We had to check ourselves. Is that we sit here all day long. It's so many people out there in the world that just have conversations about the problem, but then when I or someone else bold enough to pose the question, how do we fix it? Nobody says anything. And that's where I get frustrated because it's like, all right.
Then what? Now what?
So now we just going to keep talking about the problem. We're going to keep talking about who did what. We're going to keep pointing fingers. We're going to sit here and act like we're holier than thou. No. That's why I say we've checked ourselves. Like, okay, we sitting here talking about the problem. Let's fix the problem. What's the problem? Like, let's fix it. What's the solution? So let's name 3. Like, I'm very, and maybe that's just my personality, and I'm sure there's people out there the same way where I'm just solution.
Yes.
I'm solution oriented. Like, I want to spend 5 minutes on the problem. 10 minutes max.
Yeah, because y'all not finna stress me out after.
What's the solution? And I think that's why, side note, I think that's why I was pretty good at math. Not gloating or nothing, but like, I think I was pretty good at math because I'm always like, how do we solve this? And I'm a very solution oriented, and it's not always that you'll get the solution right away. But let's start, even if we got this much, let's practice it. Let's not just talk about it. Let's practice it. Let's talk about the problem. Let's talk about the solutions. Now let's practice it.
Okay, there's therapy and there's counseling. That's
how do
we
get there? All right, now let's look at finances. But you see how when you look at the solutions, you start to unfold everything. Just like how you said, all right, here's the problem. The problem is I'm emotionally unstable. I'm just using anything. All right, solution. You have therapy. You have counseling. All right, now, okay. How much is it going to be? Let's look into some things. All right, now let's look at our financial situation. Now that we're looking at our financial situation, all right, let's look at what we're doing with our job. Let's find out what our purpose is, and let's see how can we get this type of money. What type of assist? You open up what do you say?
Can of worms or.
I want to say something else.
Oh.
But you open up but that's the can that don't nobody want to open because now you got to work.
Yeah, There's
It's
there's more
easier to
to it.
talk. It's easier to talk about, but you open up a can of worms. But it's easier to talk about the problem instead of the solution, because when you open up that solution, you open up a whole bunch of other problems that you gotta still solve. Like I said, somebody who wants to go to therapy, now they gotta look at their financial situation. Now, guess what? You gotta stop going out to eat. You gotta stop going out to the club. You gotta stop buying
Or slow
cigarettes.
down.
Or
Well, yeah.
you gotta do something.
Yeah.
That's gonna be hard. You gotta stop going to get your nails done. You gotta stop going to get your hair done. Or you just gotta figure out a way
To add it in the budget.
to add it into the budget, or just like, okay, maybe I don't need to spend $400 on nails. Maybe you could just go get a $20 gel set. You know, there's always this compromise, but again, it goes back to change again, full circle.
And kind of adding on to, you know, people having these things and the solutions that they have to follow suit with. I think a lot of people not only can be scared with it, but it gets to a place where sometimes you don't see the point of doing it. And we want to encourage that there's an opportunity to see a different side of you. I think there's like no faith in the fact that it will work, and that's because you're walking in with the mindset that you don't want it to work. And I'm not trying to say like you suck or you're
It's
a bad
almost like a
person.
subconscious thing.
It's a subconscious thing that's like,
You want it to work, but then you also scared that it won't work. So then you like, I bet it won't work. So then you psych yourself out, and then it don't work.
and then you talk about I went to therapy, I went to this, I went and
It didn't work.
It didn't work.
Well,
Honestly,
it was just session 2. Stuff like that, like.
right. You got to stick with. You have to be okay with sticking with the whole change, not the half, not the quarter, not just okay. I did it, so you can shut up now. No,
No, you gotta go through it.
go through with it. And I'm gonna talk about myself. Oh Jesus! Thank you for watching the video. We had some technical difficulties. We're getting used to our equipment, so we appreciate you watching this whole time. Anything you want to say, baby?
Yes. Again, like he said, we thank you for watching all of our videos or watching this far. We really, really appreciate it, and we pray that you've gained so much from it. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Tell everybody about There's an Eye in Marriage.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Have a blessed day.